Today we will be reading a book called Grandpa's Teeth. Now this is a very curious story about a grandpa who lost his teeth. He couldn't find them. Have you ever lost something important to you? If you've ever lost something important to you, tap your nose. If you've had, then you probably have had to spend some time looking for that lost item and sometimes even guessing as to where you think that lost item might be. As we read this mystery story, I want you to be thinking about where you think Grandpa's teeth might be and who stole them. So this is what we call making a prediction, that guess. We will be making predictions about what happened to his teeth. So this is our read aloud story for the day. And I know we've done read alouds before, but I want us to go over some of the procedures. When we do our read alouds, are we wiggling around? No, we're not wiggling around. We're sitting crisscross applesauce, and we're keeping our hands and feet to ourselves. We don't want to bother our neighbors. Now, if you have a question about the story, I want you to raise your hand. Or if you have a comment about the story, you can raise your hand so that you can share it. But if you have a comment or a question that's not related to the story, make sure to keep it in your parking lot and you can ask the question later. If you need a reminder as to what your parking lot is, that's just where we take our thoughts and we park them for a little bit, and when we're ready to come back to them, we'll come back and we'll drive our thoughts out again, okay? And the last thing, the most important thing for read alouds is when I ask a question, go ahead and answer it out loud. I want to hear what you have to say, okay? So we can actively participate. Now, I talked about this a little bit ago, but we're going to be working on making predictions. So we're going to be trying to guess what happened in this story, but I don't want our guesses to be just some random guess. I want you guys to think about it. Think about details from the text, pictures, something that someone said. If you have a prediction, try and think, why would I think this? What in the story would make me think that this is what would happen? Okay? So try and focus on that as we make our predictions. So let's go ahead and start our story. And it's written by Rod Clement, Grandpa's Teeth. Grandpa's Teeth? Oh, so before we even jump into the story, these are Grandpa's teeth. Why do they look so funny? Can someone tell me why they look so funny? Raise your hand if you have an idea. Yeah, have you heard of dentures before? Has someone heard of that before? Does someone grandparent have dentures? Yeah. So these dentures are Grandpa's teeth. That's what he uses to chew his food. We use our real teeth that are in our mouths, but for him, when he goes to sleep, he has to take out his dentures, put them in a glass of water, and then when he wakes up in the morning, he can put them back in so that he can chew his food. So his teeth look a little bit different. And this is what he lost. He lost what he needed to chew his food. That's something really important to him. So I asked you earlier to tap your nose if you had lost something important to you before. Now, can you wiggle your fingers and tell me if you found that special thing that you lost before? Oh, I see some fingers that are wiggling and some that aren't. So sometimes we don't find what we're looking for. Do you think that Grandpa will find his teeth? Nod your head if you think so and shake your head if not. Okay, well, we'll see. Let's go ahead and jump into our story. Help! I've been robbed. It's a disaster. Come quickly. He was still shouting as Mom, Agatha, and I ran up the stairs. Grandpa's room was a mess, but to be honest, it was always a mess. He blamed Gump, his old dog, but Gump looked too old to me to make much of a mess. What was taken? Gasped Mom. Your VCR? Your television? Not your gold-plated golfing trophy? No, said Grandpa. It's much more serious than that. It's my teeth. They've been stolen. Grandpa normally kept his teeth in a glass of water by the bed. The glass was still there, but the teeth were missing. You haven't swallowed them by mistake, have you? Asked Mom. Of course not, replied Grandpa. Those teeth were special. handmade by the finest Swiss craftsmen. So Grandpa's talking a little funny, isn't he? Why do you think he's talking funny? Someone raise their hand and tell me, why do you think Grandpa's talking funny? Yeah, it's because he doesn't have his teeth. His teeth are missing, so when we don't have our teeth, it's kind of difficult to talk. Agatha looked at Mom and whispered, "Why is Grandpa talking funny?" "You see how serious it is?" moaned Grandpa. "I may never speak the same again." "Are you sure you've looked everywhere?" asked Mom. "Under the bed? Behind the cabinet? In all the drawers?" "Yes," replied Grandpa, with tears in his eyes. "I've looked everywhere." Mom called the police. "Ooh, it's getting kind of serious." Officer Rate looked grave. "We've done a thorough search of the room and house, but we've found nothing at all. No teeth, no clues. Everyone was at home at the time of the theft, so how the thief got in and out without being seen is a mystery." "Can you give us a description of the stolen articles, Mr. Pertwhistle?" Grandpa frowned, rubbed his chin, then looked at the officer. "Could you smile, please?" he asked. "Smile?" "Yes, a nice big smile." Officer Rate grinned sheepishly. "No," Grandpa shouted angrily. "I mean, really smile." Officer Rate smiled broadly. "Can you show me big, broad smiles?" Yep, Officer Rate was smiling broadly. Grandpa leaned forward, tapped the officer's teeth with his finger, tink, 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 and growled suspiciously, "They look just like those." Officer Rate looked shocked. I've had these for years." So now that we've seen a couple of characters and a couple of different people, can you whisper to your neighbor where you think Grandpa's teeth might be and why? So go ahead and take a minute to whisper to your neighbor. Okay. Officer Rate took us all down to the station for further investigation. Using Grandpa's description, the police artist drew a picture of the missing teeth. They put up our wanted poster with all the others. We made copies, put them all over town. Officer Rate rounded up the usual suspects and took them in for questioning. All of them were asked to smile. Most of them had missing teeth as well, but just one or two, not the whole set. They even brought in our unfriendly neighbor, Mrs. Carbuncle, because her own teeth didn't fit. But Grandpa didn't recognize her or the teeth in the police lineup. "I've never seen her smile before," he explained to Officer Rate. After several days, Officer Rate had to admit that no teeth had been found, no thief had been caught, and no new clues had been uncovered. Soon the whole town was smiling at him, although he never smiled back. He had nothing to smile with. Mom even got a call from one of those TV shows, Unsolved Crimes. They came to the house in a helicopter. We had to reenact the whole thing. When Grandpa was interviewed, he asked the reporter, Pearl White, if he could borrow some of her teeth. "After all," he mumbled, "you have more than enough." Yeah, she has a lot of teeth. Dad called Switzerland to find out how much a new set of teeth would cost. He was so shocked when he found out that he dropped the phone. "The only way we could ever afford it," he joked to Mom, "is to sell the house." Grandpa thought this was a great idea. "Who needs a house anyway?" he moaned. "It doesn't help you chew your food." So, how do you think Grandpa is starting to feel right now? He can't find his teeth. They can't afford to buy new teeth because they're too expensive. How do you think he might start to feel? Raise your hand if you have an idea of how Grandpa is starting to feel, and how can you tell? Very good. Yeah, I also think Grandpa might start to feel kind of bad. He can't afford his teeth like we just saw, so maybe that makes him feel sort of bad. So let's find out how Grandpa feels. To cheer him up, we all took Grandpa to the amusement park. It was a disaster. He took one look at the front entrance and burst into tears. Oh no. So they took Grandpa to the amusement park and he started to cry because even the entrance had teeth and he didn't. So yeah, Grandpa was starting to feel a little sad, a little frustrated because of everything that was happening. Everyone watched Unsolved Crimes, but no one called Officer Rate, and the crime remained unsolved. Some spare teeth were left in the mailbox, but none of them fit properly. People began locking their doors at night, imagining a teeth thief loose on the streets. No one knew who would be next, so fear gripped the town. The thief had to be caught, and soon. It seemed that the only way to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the teeth in your mouth were your own was to smile broadly at everyone you met. Anyone who didn't smile was immediately dragged off to the police station for more questions and a chat with Officer Rate. So everyone began smiling at everyone else, all the time, everywhere, even at funerals. So I see that in this picture, there's a lot of different people from the town there. We could probably use this picture to make some predictions. So why don't you go ahead and look at that picture? Let's see. Almost everyone is smiling, right? So whisper to your neighbor if you think you might know who might have done it. You know, I know that I look at this picture and I see some people that aren't smiling. But I want you to whisper to your neighbor. Okay. Because of Grandpa's teeth, the whole town was beginning to suffer. Tourists, seeing the endless sea of smiling faces, were too scared to get out of their cars. After a while, they stopped coming altogether. Dad's cafe, like the rest of the town, was losing business. The mayor called an emergency meeting. So the mayor was calling an emergency meeting. What do you think the people of the town might do to help Grandpa? And why do you think they would want to help? Yeah, so maybe the people want to help because they know that the town is suffering. They can't conduct their businesses because people are getting scared. So maybe they'll try and help Grandpa find his teeth. Let's find out. That night, for the first time that anyone could remember, the town hall was full. Speaker after speaker stood up to complain about the loss of customers and the constant strain of smiling all the day, every day. Pastor Butter summed up the situation. While I've always considered this a happy town, there are limits. No one wants to smile without a reason, and there aren't many reasons to smile in this town at the moment. It's time, I believe, to put a stop to it. The crowd cheered. Hooray! Woo! Mr. Pertwhistle had one of the finest sets of teeth in the country, and he alone could not afford to replace them. In fact, I alone could not afford to replace them either. But if every one of us put $1 in the collection plate tonight, we would have enough money to buy 2 new sets of teeth. Most people put in $1. Others put in 2. So now we know what the townspeople did. They donated money to try and help Grandpa buy his new teeth because they were too expensive to buy on their own. At the presentation ceremony, Grandpa opened the package and revealed 2 sets of brand new teeth. Why are they different sizes? Asked the mayor. Oh, only one of them is for me, replied Grandpa, popping in one of the sets into his mouth. The other one is for Mrs. Carbuncle. Her teeth never fit properly, and she has such a pretty smile. Well, let's see. Maybe we'll finally find out, because we're almost to the end of our story. Maybe we'll find out who did it. Grandpa was very happy with his new teeth. So was Mrs. Carbuncle. They smiled all the time. In fact, they were so happy that Grandpa's old dog, Gump, smiled too. For the first time ever. So this whole time, Gump was the one who had Grandpa's teeth. Could you ever have guessed that his dog had his teeth? Maybe you were thinking it. But just like in this mystery story, we can make predictions with all sorts of stories as well. You don't only have to use mystery stories to make predictions, but making predictions helps us stay focused on the story and paying attention to it. They help us think more deeply about what's happening in the story. And just like we learned today, we can help support our predictions from ideas and things that we see in the text.